Thursday, 30th of May, I got, listener, not sure about you. Tell you what else I got. Big Nick Miller. All right, Nick. In on the Totally Football Show, all right? Back from your travels. You've been to Istanbul, haven't you?
I have been to Istanbul, yeah. I went
that was spicy.
It was spicy. I went for, among other things, Galatasaray against Fenerbahce. There was a fight before the game. There was a fight after the game. It was great fun. The game itself was awful, but the fights sandwiching the football made the trip worthwhile.
Excellent. Luckily, we don't have any awful football games to discuss today. Alvaro Romeo's with us as well. All right, Alvaro.
Hola, James. It's good to be here again.
It is. Exciting times for you because your beloved Athletic Club de Bilbao are here in London at the moment.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Just partying, enjoying their time. They will definitely go to Ibiza at some point this summer. But before that, they decided to come here because
on Iñaki... the Heathrow Express?
Yeah, and they...
What?
They are made of money.
And they took the public transport to Paddington, which is something that was praised by the press from Bilbao, the fact that they weren't using cabs and all that. You know, like a group of friends just coming to London.
Right.
The whole purpose of this, I believe, it is to give a proper send-off to Iñaki Williams because he's getting married on Saturday, 1st of June.
Not a send-off in any other sense?
No, in a metaphorical way.
In a metaphorical sense.
He will be gone from their parties from now on.
There's a lovely picture of them all with their suitcases on the Bakerloo line platform at Paddington. And there's about, 15, 20 of them there, is it? I don't know, maybe more. You think if you're trying to get to the Heathrow Express or to the Elizabeth line, can you move?
They must have been...
I would be really... using that line a lot, that is exactly the sort of thing that would really annoy me.
Can't believe it.
An annoying group of men. I mean, they must have been like this,
Yeah, absolutely. This is James Horncastle with us as well, right, James?
Hello.
James is a little bit bleary-eyed because he caught the full brunt of Wednesday night's second European Cup final of the season, the Conference League. Every bit as exciting, James, as the word conference implies.
Yeah, I suppose that competition, it does throw up great stories, and maybe they should rebrand it and give it a better name than the Conference League.
Throws up great stories, not necessarily great finals.
Well, last year was good, wasn't it?
Last year was all right.
Or maybe
it was dramatic at the end.
Yeah, maybe I'm...
The first year with Roma, how good was that?
Well, it was better than the Roma-Sevilla in Budapest in the Europa League.
That's true. I mean, but as you say, great stories. Great stories. And, hey, should we just jump straight into that and talk about some of the amazing plot twists that took place in Athens? Woo! Well, huge excitement at the end there as El Kabi seals the first ever Greek European trophy. What were they saying, Alvaro?
My Greek is the level of Rino Gattuso's.
Yeah, something
100% Malakia.
My Greek is like Pepe Mel's English, more or less. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you remember the big Pepe Mel.
Yeah. Thriller writer, Pepe Mel.
Exactly, yeah. Wearing aviators even in winter.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
But the Greek...
the reaction has been, you can imagine. This is not a good time for Olympiakos, or it wasn't a good time because they had lost the last two domestic titles, one to AEK Athens, the other one a week ago to PAOK Thessaloniki, and this was some sort of a big gift at the end of the season for them. 100,000 people were waiting yesterday at the Piraeus at 4:30 when Olympiakos arrived in there just to celebrate the achievement, which is a massive one, we'll speak about this later, but with a squad made of some castaways, some players that weren't wanted anywhere, some players who are too young, like the goalkeeper Tsolakis, and yet with this makeshift squad, José Luis Mendilibar, the man who gel and gather all together, has managed to succeed.
They are the first Greek team to ever win European silverware. Greece thus becoming the 20th nation to claim their first European honour. And they're the first team to win a European trophy in their own country since Feyenoord 22 years ago. Nick, how bad was this game?
It's pretty bad. It was pretty bad. It's kind of started quite well. And Fiorentina looked quite threatening in the sort of early stages. And then it quickly descended into... everyone's shoes are on the wrong feet kind of thing, and crosses were sailing out, and shots were being scuffed, and there were a couple of moments where someone looked like they were going to have a really sort of presentable chance, and then they just completely scuff into the ground, and you kind of you settled in for a long old slog. I think after sometime shortly after half time, kind of hoping for penalties. You're hoping for to be rewarded for your sort of endurance by a penalty shootout, but Olympiacos went.
Not even that. Even that Bridge denied you.
I know.
Crikey. All right, well, let's celebrate a couple of figures, some of those storylines that you referenced, James. I imagine one of them is the manager, José Luis Mendilibar. Is that
a fellow Basque?
Mendilibar, yeah. Mendilibar from a place called Zaldívar.
Mendilibar. Sorry, I've gone off on my own one. What did you say?
No, Mendilibar from Zaldívar.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a town in Biscay, yeah.
Is there another line to this rhyme? Mendilibar.
So,
how long can it keep going?
Freestyle.
Yeah. The length of Ilibar.
A lot of people watching will have seen another Spanish manager, but what's so remarkable for you about seeing that man winning his second European trophy in a row?
Well, statistically what he got is an oddity, because the last time that a manager had clinched back-to-back European trophies with different clubs was Rafa Benítez. 2005 with Liverpool, 2004 with Valencia. And the story of Mendilibar is the story of a manager who never thought that he was going to be there, really. His last European experience prior to last year's in March with Sevilla was playing the Intertoto Cup, being the coach of Athletic Club Bilbao in the Intertoto Cup in summer 2005. And Athletic Club Bilbao got a very early exit in the second round of the Intertoto Cup. Mendilibar didn't last a lot as an Athletic Bilbao manager. That was probably his biggest shot at the top flight at the time. That was 20 years ago. He got sacked very quickly from Athletic Club Bilbao, and then he descended into a little bit the abyss of Spanish football, going down to the second division, getting promoted with Valladolid, different clubs, until he found his home at Eibar in 2015. Over there he was admired, but he wasn't coveted by anybody. I will say that this is probably the most striking thing about Mendilibar, the fact that he was getting the results for Eibar year in, year out, but he was never coveted by anybody.
Right.
Then he left Eibar, he went to Sevilla. That was one of the most weird appointments that Monchi did ever. Mendilibar, a manager with no experience in Europe whatsoever, and he got the trophy for them.
Yeah.
But then,
so he's brought in as an emergency midway through last season and wins the Europa League with Sevilla, and he's brought in as the third manager of this season at Olympiacos and wins them the Conference League. He's won back-to-back European trophies in only 15 UEFA matches.
Which tells you that maybe he is the perfect fixer, because I was watching a TikTok interview that they did with Mendilibar,
TikTok?
A couple of months ago, and these fast questions. Do you like pizza with pineapple or not? Do you like fish or pasta? These ones. Interviews and they ask him tiki-taka or 4-4-2. And he didn't hesitate at all. He's a 4-4-2 man. Or maybe yesterday he wasn't, because he has a different squad to the one he would love to have.
Pineapple?
I think that wasn't one of the questions. Anyway. But you know what I mean. But he's a man who has very clear ideas. He has a very clear message. He doesn't overcomplicate things. And he went to Olympiacos, a side that by definition is pretty much always complicated, and he got a few things right, and he gave the players some very easy ideas about the way they have to play, and they perform it to the fullest. And I think that is an achievement for Mendilibar. Again, 2 back-to-back European titles, and last season with Sevilla was the same story completely. Sevilla was in chaos. They were a pandemonium, and Mendilibar arrives there, and he managed to get the thing right.
Very nice. El Cabi, James, your favourite Olympiacos player.
Yeah. Extraordinary season. 33 goals in all competitions. To come from Qatar, or Al Sadd, where he was playing his football, on a free transfer. I think when players go to Olympiacos, obviously it's a story in Greece, but it's not really a story that transcends Greece in the way that El Cabi has now. And as with Mendilibar, who is in his 60s, and, up until last year, no one would be saying, he's going to be one of these coaches who wins a couple of European trophies. Same with El Cabi. You wouldn't be saying that he's going to be... you could say maybe he would score a big goal in a big European game, but a winner in a final on the back of a season in which he scored more goals than any other player in UEFA competitions.
11.
At 30 years old as well. And he wasn't, for example, he's Moroccan, but wasn't in the Morocco World Cup squad when Morocco reached the semi-finals of the World Cup in Qatar, even though he was playing in Qatar. And I saw one of the reporters in the pre-match press conference with Mendilibar was saying, like, you just love Moroccan forwards, don't you? It's like En-Nesyri at Sevilla, now it's El-Kabi. I saw yesterday people talking about how African football in these European finals has been represented really well, either with Lookman scoring his hat-trick or with El-Kabi. But it's a reminder of, you know, as some European nations really struggle to, you know, find strikers.
Speaking of which, Fiorentina have 5 finals that they've lost in a row, including 3 under Italiano, 2 in this particular tournament in back-to-back seasons. And oh my word, they need a striker.
Or Bonaventura scoring his chances. Because in the first half, he got a couple of them.
Any of them scoring their chances.
Yeah.
Belotti whiff, trademark Belotti whiff, about, I think, which you were referencing kind of early on, about 10, 15 minutes into the game.
Well, yeah, there were quite a few of those.
Yeah.
But James, you say they need a striker, and that's why they signed Andrea Belotti in January.
Extraordinary. Why would you do that?
I mean, just, you know, oh, he's available? Okay. All right, then we'll take him. But it's interesting because people say, like, this has been the story of their season. It was also the story of last season as well. It is a little bit of a trend on the Italiano, which makes you think, is it about the strikers or is it about how they get into the final third and into the penalty area? I mean, in fairness to Italiano, in his first season, they had Dusan Vlahovic for the first 4 or 5 months, and Vlahovic scored like 15, 16 goals before moving to Juventus. So clearly a striker can work in this system. And in the Conference League last year, Cabral and Jovic, I think Cabral was the top scorer. But if you look at their league season, you know, Beltran, for example, their big signing from River Plate, didn't score a goal in the league until December. And I think hadn't scored a league goal in 8 games going into this final. Belotti scored twice all season. For Fiorentina, and it had become a bit of a joke at Roma. You know, he's a really nice guy, Belotti, so it's hard to actually dislike him. But his drop-off since he left Torino has been quite something. And then Enzola as well, you know, someone who's playing in the second division with Spezia under Italiano, who was signed because, this guy gets the manager, he understands what he needs to do, and yet again he hasn't scored many goals this season. So yeah, your heart kind of bleeds for Fiorentina, because it's one thing to get to a final. It's not taken for granted that you'll go and reach another one, and to lose it was pretty painful, and very much just continues this trend of them being cursed in European finals, I'd say.
Hooray for Olympiakos and their plucky owner, Evangelos Marianakis.
Yeah, taking a back seat in the celebrations. I saw as well. Yeah, right down the front of the group when they were lifting the trophy. Yeah, it's kind of my heart slightly sank a little bit, because it is. I think James was saying on TV last night, kind of one in the eye for process and logic, because Marianakis sort of kind of runs Olympiacos in a very similar way that he runs Forest, by force of chaos. I think Olympiacos I counted 22 signings since last season. 8 of the starting lineup were signed either this season or last summer, which is kind of, you know, small numbers compared to Forest, but it's just sort of validation of the chaotic process, really, isn't it?
It's the magic of the conference.
Exactly.
Conference League as well.
But it's sort of it kind of justifies the Conference League, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the sort of the fear was, and I suppose when Roma won it, it was almost, you thought, well, this is the way it's going to go. It's just going to be the kind of, the bigger teams are just going to drop down in this competition and win it every year. But Olympiakos winning Greece's first European trophy, I think the first sort of new country to win it since Shakhtar won the Euro 2009 in the Europa League. So yeah, it's kind of validation for the whole thing, really.
Hurrah!
The Magic League.
Yeah.
The narrative league, maybe. There you go.
I would like to, to put some light on someone like Ernesto Valverde.
Okay.
Because, I've been going to Greece for 6-7 years now, and every time I say that I am Spanish, automatically people tell me Ernesto Valverde. They don't tell me Sergio Ramos, Gerard Piqué, whatever. They tell me Ernesto Valverde. Right. There in Greece, he is a very famous figure because for Olympiakos, he was an absolute legend. He professionalized the club in a way. He made it more professional. And yesterday, he was there. Hugging José Luis Mendilibar before the game, Ernesto Valverde, because Olympiacos is his second club, and he went there just to support his good friend José Luis Mendilibar. So, ever since Valverde took charge of Olympiacos for the first time, Olympiacos has had like 7 or 8 different Spanish managers. Valverde left a legacy in there, and I think that we should praise him because Olympiacos maybe wouldn't be the side they are now if it wasn't for Ernesto Valverde 10-15 years ago, just taking them to some standards that Olympiacos didn't have before.
Very nice, Alvaro. Very nice. All right, much as it pains me, I think we leave Wednesday's 120 minutes of Olympiakos Fiorentina and move on to this Saturday's big cup final at Wembley. It's the 30th of May, everyone, today. On this day, 45 years ago, what happened, Nick? Stop reading my notes.
Oh, I have to. I don't know what you're talking about. Was that when Forest won the European Cup by any chance?
For the first time.
For the first time, yeah.
What an extraordinary night. Beating Malmo 1-0.
The big one.
With a goal by Trevor Francis. What was remarkable about that, Nick?
Many things. He was the first £1 million footballer. Is that
and this wasn't his debut in the competition?
It was debut in the competition. Yeah, he wasn't eligible to play because as Forest signed him in February, I think it was. So he wasn't eligible to play, and he had a very bad injury in the following season, so he couldn't play in the second final, which was a great pity. But
how did he become eligible to play only the final?
It was just kind of the strange rules of the competition back then. I don't quite know why.
According to a major information source on the internet, UEFA rules stipulated he could not play European football for 3 months after signing. So that meant that he essentially missed out all the knockouts until the final, and then Clough threw him in, and he proceeded to score the only goal of the game.
I do think, for all the things that we get caught up with in the football discourse, VAR and regulatory decisions, PSR and that sort of thing, you look back at this kind of pre-internet age when stuff like this happened. Can you imagine, Swedes are quite placid, but can you imagine the Malmo Twitter reaction to hang on a minute, how is this £1 million football player all of a sudden being allowed to play in our biggest game? That's not fair. It's I told this story last night. Fiorentina played the Cup Winners' Cup final in 1962. It was a draw. They didn't do penalty shootouts in those days, and so they were like, okay, we'll have a replay then. When will it be? 4 months later. So can you imagine the outcry of that these days? It's you're going to have a replay of a final from last season 4 months later. Are you nuts?
Or Italy in the Euros in '68, wasn't it? Going through on the coin
toss.
Yeah. Right, that was 1979. The equivalent match this season is the 69th meeting of European champions, the Champions League final this Saturday night at Wembley. And it's Borussia Dortmund against Real Madrid. Very nice. Oh, we've got Seb Stafford-Bloor just joining us down the studio. Hey, Seb.
Hey, Jimbo.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Give us a bit of perspective on spunky Borussia Dortmund, eh?
Bit of trepidation. Also, a little bit of mutiny in the air. So there is, unfortunately. So Mats Hummels, who hates being the centre of attention, of course, and hates being outspoken, decided that Wednesday, 3 days before a European Cup final, was the time to kind of air some grievances about Dortmund's style this year, which seems like a really sound decision. Just let's give the boat a good old rock,
right?
And didn't take much reading between the lines to see a little bit of criticism of Edin Terzic, because Hummels talked about the effect that Nuri and Sven Bender, who came in as attack and defence coach during the Winterpause, respectively. His mates. He was very, very quick to credit them, and he should be, because they've had an effect and definitely they've contributed to this European run. But I don't know, put Terzic under the bus a little bit during a time when he's kind of struggling with his relationship with the supporters anyway. A lot of people are unhappy with his management of the side. They haven't been good in the Bundesliga. They're very stop-start domestically. This European run's come out of nowhere, really. And it's hard to see, really, what the plus side of that was for Mats Hummels. Don't get it, but there we are. So they're an underdog anyway. They're badly outmatched. But then how many times have we said that this season?
Wow, that's so true. And James was making the point a week ago here in the studio that people said similar things about Inter ahead of last year's Champions League final with Man City, when they had plenty of opportunities to take something from that game, to cause a real upset. So where would you think Borussia's chances lie?
Well, hopefully the woodwork is on as good a form as it was in the semi-final. But I think there's a simplicity to Dortmund's game in Europe, which has really helped them, because obviously I think part of their issue in the Bundesliga has been this sort of identity crisis, whereby this is how we should play as Borussia Dortmund: energy, captivating, really seductive football that draws people in, versus how we practically have to play because we're outmatched against Paris Saint-Germain, Newcastle, to a certain extent, probably AC Milan as well, I would say, definitely PSG, and certainly here. So get behind the ball and use the strengths they do have, which is an informed Jadon Sancho, Karim Adeyemi, who not sure yet if he's going to start, but was absolutely exceptional in the first leg of the semi-final. Nicholas Füllkrug, who is I think gets undersold a little bit. He's a wonderful story, and I think he's seen as a little bit of a bull of a centre-forward, but he's finished extremely well when he's needed to during the Champions League. That goal against PSG was vital, probably the best goal of his career, and certainly in terms of importance. So there is an opportunity, and I think what's been interesting is, beyond Terzic, one of the criticisms of Dortmund has been this accusation that individual stars, in inverted commas, because they don't really have, their hero football without heroes anymore, that they've been missing in action in the Bundesliga, and yet Hummels, Nico Schlotterbeck, Emre Can, these players have really come to the fore in the Champions League, and they've played extremely, extremely well. Ian Maatsen, too, on loan from Chelsea, has been a revelation at fullback, been absolutely brilliant. So if you can kind of aggregate all these sort of individual performances from nowhere, you might get somewhere near Real Madrid. Maybe.
Well, it's a cup game, isn't it?
It is a cup game.
It's a cup game. Alvaro, what do you think?
I think that this is a proper mismatch here. I think that Real Madrid is the big favourite this time. Of course, you never know, because the last 4 Champions League finals have ended up with a 1-0 scoreline, and the games have been really tight. But this time, I believe that Real Madrid has so much confidence. I mean, they won La Liga almost with record points. They haven't lost a single game in the Champions League, and they've never won the Champions League unbeaten. So that tells you that they're having a great season. Probably this is the best season I remember of Real Madrid, even better than 2016, 2017, when they did the League and Champions League double. But this time it's even better, because that summer they lost Karim Benzema, and they've been playing either with Bellingham over there, Vinicius, Rodrigo. None of them are a number 9, and yet they are getting the results. The last time they played in 90, they lost in 90 minutes was in September. And it's not only about the numbers; it's also about the security that they irradiate, they exude. I mean, the way they play, if Manchester City scores early at Santiago Bernabeu, they come back with 2 goals very quickly. They have done this all the season round. I mean, they don't tend to suffer in games. They just seem to have everything very well settled for themselves.
Oh, it sounds like Bayer Leverkusen just ahead of their fun.
Yeah, but that's incomparable, Jimbo. With all due respect to Leverkusen, who have had, in my opinion, they are the story of the year. But irrespective of that, I mean, Real Madrid hasn't won a European final since the 80s, and it's not only that, because they haven't lost a European final since the 80s, and they
against
Aberdeen, yeah. But they have played like 5 Champions League finals in the last 9 years. They have won them all. That's the thing. It's very important for Real Madrid to win another one, by the way. It sounds silly to say this, but to win it before Mbappé arrives, and to win it without a nominal number 9, that will look fantastic on this group of players and Carlo Ancelotti.
Here's a stat about Real Madrid. There have been 69 finals of this competition, either as European Cup or Champions League. Real Madrid have been in over a quarter of them.
No, they are looking for the 15th, and the jump that Real Madrid has done and may even increase if they win the Champions League is massive. I mean, in the 50s and early 60s, they became the best team in the world by far. And in the last 10 years, with so many trophies collected and all that, they have done a jump forward in the historic charts of the La Liga and definitely in the Champions League, that I think that all of us won't see any team surpassing Real Madrid in the Champions League ranks right now. If they win 15, the immediate follower or the immediate second best will be AC Milan with 7. Yeah. That's incredible.
So they'll be confident, just as pretty much everyone's been confident against Borussia Dortmund so far this season in the group of death. Paris Saint-Germain, who you mentioned, who failed to even score across 2 legs, and the woodwork had a lot to do with that. But still, 6 clean sheets in this competition this season, Borussia Dortmund. The point that Seb's making about their strengths, Adeyemi and Jadon Sancho, how much can they punish potential weak points in the Real Madrid lineup?
Look, I think that the best thing that Dortmund can do against Real Madrid is sending long balls in the box, because they have scored a few goals like this. I remember scoring against Atletico that way, a long ball in the box. Then Savitzer and a couple of players are always in the edge of the box waiting for the second ball, and Füllkrug is very strong. So I think he can win a duel or 2 against Rudiger. In my opinion, that would be the best way. Real Madrid this season has suffered a little bit with the crosses and the long balls as well. That's the way they lost against Atletico, with Atletico crossing many balls. Let's see if Thibaut Courtois is 100% sure, because it looks like he's going to start. Especially because Lunin right now is in Madrid with flu, and he hasn't travelled with the squad.
You mentioned this about 10 days ago, that the chance that he might be brought in, whatever Lunin's situation was.
Yeah.
And you felt that might be a potential danger for Real Madrid. Why?
No, I think that Thibaut Courtois is a great goalkeeper. I believe that if he is fit, he has to play, because Carlo Ancelotti believes in him. And Carlo Ancelotti hasn't given an answer to the journalists when asked about who is going to start in the final. He said that he doesn't want to answer to this question because he wants to spur on the debate, because he has a lot of fun just watching and hearing journalists and reporters talking about that, speculating about this. So if Thibaut Courtois plays, it's because he's 100%. I have no doubt about that.
Is it quite tough on Lunin, Alvaro? Just because, like, I remember thinking when he made that save from Harry Kane against Bayern, it's one of the best saves I've seen in the Champions League all season, like down to his left. It's awfully tough. You go through the entire Champions League campaign, massive contribution to getting to the final, and then, well, he's fit. So I don't know, how would you manage that as a coach? Like the disappointment that would come with that.
And I wonder if Lunin will accept this well as well. Yeah, because he's been the goalkeeper that nobody expected. Yeah, it looks like harsh on him, but I think that Lunin never expected to play this much this season. To start with, Real Madrid brought Kepa as soon as Thibaut Courtois picked an injury, but then Lunin and his performances earned him a place in the lineup. He has been phenomenal, especially in the Champions League. He has raised his level as the competition went by. But again, I mean, if Thibaut Courtois has played the last La Liga games or a few of them as soon as he was ready, that tells me that maybe Carlo Ancelotti is rushing him as soon as possible to be in that final. So I have the feeling that he's going to play. If he plays, it's because he's 100%. But back to your initial question, I think that the best thing that Dortmund can do is perhaps crossing the ball a lot into the box, sending long balls in the box, because in that department, Real Madrid has suffered a little bit. And Nacho and Rudiger are a very competent centre-back duo. But of course, Nacho is not that tall either, and maybe Dortmund over there can get something out of Real Madrid.
Okay. Alvaro, a couple of the other big storylines in this game from a Real Madrid perspective. One is Jude Bellingham has just been voted La Liga Player of the Season, facing his former club. And the other is Toni Kroos bowing out from club football in the biggest club game of all.
Of course. Well, Toni Kroos has always ranked his own agenda. He's been always very discreet when it comes to himself. He always had his political views on many things. For example, when Gabri Veiga signed at the age of 21, 22, former Celta player for a club from Saudi Arabia, he said something like, "This is ridiculous." He's got political positions about all these things. And in this case, I think that he has done the right thing. I mean, we tend to believe that 34 is very young right now because look at Cristiano Ronaldo, look at Messi, and many more players who are still playing. But Zinedine Zidane retired in 2006 at the age of 34, and it looked like a normal thing to do.
But when you look at how he's been playing certainly in the Champions League this season, it feels like he could stay very easily.
In my opinion, yes. And he's still one of the players with more accuracy in the game. He runs the show, and even more so. I would say that maybe he's not the best player of Real Madrid right now because Bellingham is probably that player altogether with Vinicius. But Toni Kroos is the most unique one because somehow he puts all his IQ in that Real Madrid midfield. Some of the Real Madrid midfielders are fantastic, but they are more box-to-box footballers, and sometimes they need to give the ball to Toni Kroos for him to start running the tempo, running the show. And without him, Real Madrid the next season are going to have a massive void. And I think that if Real Madrid want to get a player for this summer, apart from Kylian Mbappé, has to be someone with that profile. Probably Luka Modric is going to stay one more year, which obviously is a short-term solution, but in the long run, Real Madrid has to find another Toni Kroos or someone who resembles that quality.
I see. Marco Reus also making his final appearance for Dortmund with this game.
Yeah, a strange one because he's actually been at odds with Terzic all the way through the season. They fell out over playing time for Reus and Reus's belief that he should be starting more games. I don't think I really agree. I think that part of Reus's career is over. And yet there's been this kind of obviously swell of goodwill towards someone who, first and foremost is associated with being incredibly unlucky at bad moments in his career and missing big tournaments, especially for Germany. At the same time, I think there's been a little bit of a reminder of just how good a player he has been, and the kind of the compilations and the roundup of his careers and the sort of the best moments on the pitch have been in steady rotation on German television for a while now. And there's this lovely moment, I think I brought this up before, when he was, just after he announced his that he was going to be leaving the club, he scored the next Saturday, and it was in the Westfalenstadion, and there was this sort of TV cut to Carsten Kramer and Aki Watzke, and Lars Ricken was up there as well, and everyone was just very, very happy for someone who was initially rejected by Dortmund. Actually, he was thought to be too slight, went off, made his name elsewhere, came back, proved a point. And, not a local boy made good, of course, but he's had a wonderful career.
Will it end with the biggest trophy of all? James, what do you think? Is it as cut and dried as Alvaro is suggesting?
I mean, there is an inevitability about Real Madrid. I'm not the first person to say that. I think a lot of people think that. Carlo Ancelotti, without having a defined style, is the greatest coach of all time, if you judge coaches by how many Champions League trophies that they have in their locker. I mean, as a player, as a coach, his ability to move with the times, but also I think recognize fundamentally what makes teams successful, which is a great group of players, but also, we see recently tactics blogs, YouTube videos talking about relationism in football as this kind of one of the new tactical waves in football. But I think with Carlo, it ultimately always comes down to how you relate to players as people.
Right. What's relationism?
I'm sure there's a video on Tifo.
Okay, do you know?
Relationism, positionalism.
Could go grab John McKenzie and pull him into the studio and demand that he explains it.
Okay, well, that'll be our homework ahead of the game on Saturday. Or not, because it's actually not that relevant from what you're saying.
Well, no, I think Jude Bellingham told that anecdote about Carlo Ancelotti where Bellingham caught him yawning before a big game. And it sums Carlo up, not in the way that I think a lot of people would think. They would think, does this mean he's overly casual, that he's underprepared? It's someone who is a guy who's got this aura of just not being stressed by anything. And that is ultimately, if you see that in someone, it makes you feel good about yourself, confident. And, I'm sure there are a lot of profiles of Carlo Ancelotti talking about how he was a midfield player who played under Arrigo Sacchi, and then he was in Arrigo Sacchi's staff, and he initially played 4-4-2 and all that sort of thing. Most influential person in Carlo Ancelotti's career is Nils Lidholm, the Swede who would fall asleep on the train to games, and have this very chill, relaxed outlook on football and life. And I think with Ancelotti, you think of the experience that he has now, the thousands of games that he's either watched as a player or played in as a player, watched as a coach or coached. The amount of experience where it comes to actually just understanding what a team needs in a moment or what an opponent is doing without any kind of overly elaborate thinking on that sort of thing is just... Yeah, he's a man who's very at ease with himself and in these high-pressure situations. And I think that's ultimately why he is the greatest when it comes to these occasions now.
I think so. Nick, what are you most looking forward to seeing in Real Madrid 4, Borussia Dortmund 0?
I did wonder whether it's I can't remember the last time there was a sort of bigger underdog in a Champions League final. We talked about Inter last season, but...
I think Inter were hailed as a similarly no-hope outfit.
Oh, yeah. They really were.
I kind of thought maybe Chelsea against Bayern in 2012.
Well, yeah, that's...
And we all remember how that went.
How'd it go?
Well, Chelsea won.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm most looking forward to, maybe a kind of... It's been a week for late-blooming, underappreciated strikers.
Right.
So,
Possibly, you think?
Well, sure, yeah, absolutely. If they take Alvaro's advice and go
Ping
one
it
to
in.
the big man,
Yeah.
that's what I think. That is what I'd like to say. I'd like to see a really grim game decided by a horrible goal by Fulkrug.
Right. So, have we mentioned the stat? I think we have about the number of Champions Leagues that have been 1-0 of late. I think, Alvaro, you said the last 4.
Since 2020, all of them.
Yeah, but there's a good chance, looking at the numbers, that this contest will produce lots of goals because the last 14, I have the stats right here, the last 14 contests between Real and Borussia have produced 43 goals, which I think 3.07, that works out. Average
You worked that out.
That is impressive.
7, no, 7, yeah.
Just off the top of your head.
And that completely blank computer screen in front of you, that is some maths.
What about if they win 2-0? That'd be pretty good.
That would be a positive result. I think in the conceptual sense.
Okay, as good as it gets is you lose 1-0.
I mean, if they were also to win 4-1,
Right.
good, you take that as a Borussia Dortmund
Do you
player.
remember when Avram Grant was busy defending a 1-0 defeat against Man United? But that's essentially what Terzic should send them out to do.
Yeah.
Just bring back some dignity.
Nice, respectful dignity. Love some dignity.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's
But
that.
on the other hand, the trip they have had until the final is so impressive that, I said Real Madrid is the favourite. I do believe so. And in fact, I think that all the players of Real Madrid, despite having won so much, they are still hungry. And that explains why they've been winning trophies endlessly for the last 10 years. But Dortmund had a trip to the Champions League final, which is incredible because they have defeated so many good clubs. I mean, they were in the group of death at the beginning of the tournament to start with.
And this was the point that Mats Hummels, in another of his externations, you would say. How would you say that in English?
He covered a lot of ground. He gets a lot out of his quotes, Mats Hummels. He talks about he's among the top 5 defenders in Germany, and
But he had this lovely line, I think a week or 2 ago, where he said, "So many teams wanted to draw us in the Champions League final, so we've stayed in the competition as long as possible to give them all a chance." And it's true. And confidence can be a double-edged sword. So maybe that's something
They'll wield.
And
you want to be careful with a double-edged sword.
Yeah, you do.
Wield with caution.
also, very quickly, this time there is not a Robert Lewandowski to mark or something like that. What I mean with this is that in the Champions League, I was checking the numbers. They have had 12 different scorers this season. So danger comes from any possible angle, which is a good thing for Dortmund. As I said before, they are very good in the second balls. They have won more duels than anybody else in the Champions League.
Is that right?
So, yeah. That's
With
UEFA's.
that double-edged sword.
With
that
that
they've been
double-edged
wielding.
A few duels against themselves at times. Yeah.
So, Real Madrid will also have to be very quick. And as I said, Sancho, Savitzer, Fulkrug, everyone who plays up front can score. None of them are massive stars like they were, like Götze, Royce, Gundogan, or Lewandowski were in 2013. But of course, there is some danger in them.
Does everybody want to nominate a score? What do you think the score's going to be, Seb?
3-1 Real Madrid.
Nick?
3-0 Real Madrid.
Ooh.
For sure, Real Madrid.
James?
I said 1-0 Dortmund on TV
Yes.
last night. Only
Yes.
just because, it's point of difference, isn't it? I don't believe it. But at the same time, this European calendar year has been about Atalanta winning their first trophy, Olympiakos winning their first trophy. I know Dortmund obviously won it in 97, but
Massive underdogs in that game.
massive underdogs in that game. And Lars Ricken then lobs Peruzzi.
Yeah.
So
I think Courtois to come off his line.
Lars Ricken just been appointed sporting CEO at Dortmund as well. A little bit of
okay,
maybe.
can he come on?
The candles are
I
just
mean,
flat
he
out
has
here
the
in
authority. I don't know whether he's registered. He could. Yes, I'm sure he could make it happen.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Saturday evening, then, the Champions League final. Woof. Well, Seb, before you go, thanks for popping in, by the way. Just a quick word on one of the more extraordinary kind of end-of-season games over in Germany, which was the relegation stroke promotion playoff. It was Bochum against Fortuna Düsseldorf, and we left things with the plucky second division side having won 3-0 the first leg away at Bochum. How did the second leg go? Did they wrap things up nicely there, Dan?
They did not. They lost 3-0 and then lost on penalties, and it was difficult to watch.
The
Difficult to
penalties were
watch.
brutal, so tense.
Yeah, it was also. I'm not a fan of the relegation game. I love the spectacle of it, but I think it's deeply unfair. I think if you're a Bundesliga club that kind of drifts into that 16th place and you let yourself slide into it, you don't deserve two chances to get yourself out of trouble. And actually, a little bit more context. So before the tie even started, Bochum's goalkeeper Manuel Riemann was excluded from the squad because management did not like the way that he was dealing with the kind of the circumstance around the club and the underperformance and how he was addressing teammates. So Riemann he seemingly went on holiday. And in comes Andy Luther, who is 37 years old and had been playing second division football for Kaiserslautern earlier in the season. Had one appearance for Bochum subsequently, which was like an absolute battering by Leipzig. Came in, had a little bit of a shocker in the first leg, difficulties with crosses, played very well in the second, and so they got through. But I don't like it. I don't think it's very meritocratic. I think also Fortuna played ever so well in the last probably 8 weeks of the season, and might have gone up automatically had it gone on for an extra month. And now, by the way, Christos Zolis, who is on loan from Norwich, played brilliantly. Maybe the Zweite Bundesliga player of the season for Norwich fans. Who there are none of in this podcast, so that is not that relevant. But I thought I'd bring it anyway.
Yeah. All right, managers. It's a new rock and roll, etc. Among the big managerial move news this week is the fact that Hansi Flick is now confirmed as the new Barcelona manager. Alvaro, reaction in Catalonia?
I think that the reaction has been rather okay. Everyone knows of the qualities of Hansi Flick.
They saw it firsthand when his Bayern smashed Barcelona 8-2, no?
Pretty much, yeah. 8-2
Ooh,
in that game with Philippe Coutinho at the time, still a Barcelona player, scoring against Barcelona. But I think the talk has been rather about Xavi and the way he's been dismissed. Apparently, he decided not to get the final year of his contract, the final money they owe him, but he made sure that his staff got paid. Okay. They told Xavi that he's not staying. Hansi Flick is definitely a manager with pedigree, a manager that made of Bayern a terrific attacking machine 3 years ago. And he will have to deal with the usual issues that some other managers have to deal with, like, for example, not having any money to sign, things like this. But I'm sure that he's been briefed about that, and I believe that he can be the right man to work with a young, talented squad.
To the new manager, I tell you, you will suffer, said Xavi as he departed. doing a bit of a Bela Gutmann there.
Yeah, as if Hansi Flick hadn't worked at Bayern.
Yeah.
At Bayern, sometimes you've got your own board directors just lobbying against you in the press. So Hansi Flick definitely knows a thing or two about having to tolerate, comments about him from inside.
Right, okay. Well, let's move on to another club that's busy making a new appointment. Another club with one or two issues about backing their manager, etc. and so on. And it is, of course, Chelsea, who are currently lining up Enzo Maresca to take charge. Enzo Maresca, after just 67 games in management, one full season in English football with, of course, Leicester City. We're joined by the Athletic's Rob Tanner now from Leicester. Rob, can you shed some... First of all, hello, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Rob. And secondly, can you shed some light on what qualities it is that Chelsea have seen that have made them think this is the man for us?
Well, from what I've seen in the one season he's been at Leicester, he's absolutely meticulous in his planning. He's devoted to his idea, as he calls it, his philosophy on how he wants his teams to play. He spends hours watching. Well, he watched every Leicester game from the 22-23 season more than once on occasions to learn his play. I know it was a disaster. I wouldn't like to relive that one. And then obviously his preparation for the opposition. I mean, he knew every sort of variation of formation they were going to play. He's absolutely meticulous, and double sessions on the training ground as well. They weren't quite as intense training sessions as they were previously under Brendan Rodgers, much more tactical, a lot more analysis in the video rooms. He's just completely and utterly devoted to his way of playing. And I think Chelsea have identified that. They've seen it. They saw it themselves in the FA Cup when Leicester went to Stamford Bridge and came from 2 goals behind, gave them a bit of a scare in the Cup. So they could see what he was doing. There's a clear identity about Leicester this season. And I think that's why they're disappointed that they knew that he was going to move on at some stage, that he was going to go on to bigger and better things. But I think they didn't realise it was going to be after just one campaign.
Right. He looks so much like Pep Guardiola these days. When with all the pictures of him, you think, oh, you're Pep. Oh, no, it's not Pep. And similarly, the notion is that given his background working in coaching under Pep at Manchester City, that it's going to be a kind of Man City light that he brings to Stamford Bridge. How accurate is that?
Yeah, he's certainly been influenced by Pep, but I can see differences in some of the things that he does. I mean, Pep does evolve his teams quite well. I think at the moment, because it's so early in his managerial career, Enzo's very wedded to his approach. I mean, one of the accusations that when Leicester had a little blip around February, March time was that he didn't have a plan B when plan A wasn't working. He just was so devoted to plan A. That isn't exactly true. And we did a feature on The Athletic looking at his plan B and how effective that was. It got them an extra 15 points just by shuffling and making a few subtle changes. People see a plan B, certainly at Leicester, as traditionally as sticking a centre-half up front and sticking the ball in the box, when we used to put Steve Walsh and Matty Elliott up front. But those days are long, long gone, and I think Chelsea see a very modern coach, and he will bring a clear identity to Chelsea.
Okay. Rob, is it going to work?
You look at Chelsea and the amount of managers they've had over a number of years. And I spoke to a Chelsea podcast last night, and they were on about how he's going to be a bit of a yes man. Enzo is not a yes man. He will stand up for what he believes in, and he'll certainly challenge the hierarchy above him. It all depends. If they leave him alone and let him get on with it and back him, it might work. If they start interfering and giving him players that he doesn't really want to fit into his system, then that will be a problem, and I can't see it working. All right. But so many big managers, big name managers, big reputation managers have gone in and failed at Chelsea. Why not have a go at somebody who's young but enthusiastic and committed to what they want to do? But you've got to support them. Well,
indeed. Rob, thank you so much for joining us for that.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Have a lovely summer until we speak to you next.
Cheers. See you soon, guys.
Thanks, Rob. Cheerio.
Bye.
Lovely stuff. James, you wrote a very timely piece about Enzo Maresca, and in which you incorporated his previous managerial stint at Parma and his great love of chess.
Yeah, which, I mean, was interesting to read his thesis for his pro license. But I think Parma, there are so many parallels there. Over-enthusiastic American owners, they come in. they decide they're going to pretty much change everything. They signed dozens of players, many of whom Parma fans hadn't heard a thing about, because they were like, okay, maybe this guy from Romania, he's young, he's top prospect, he'll develop into a really good player. No, it just turned out they overpaid for someone who is still on the books now. Maresca went in and felt that he didn't get the time, the patience, that they didn't sign the players that he wanted. And so he was gone by November, which is that a Wyclef Jean song? So, I think if he goes there expecting patience, everything we've seen in the patterns of behaviour from this ownership group is that they don't have that. I think Chelsea don't seem to speak as one as a club. You've got Todd Bowley, you've got Bedadik Bali. Are they on the same page? You've got two sporting directors, Winstanley, Stewart, trying to operate, but are they really operating independently and have been delegated full powers so that the guys above them aren't interfering? Yeah, that's been another debating point for Chelsea. So, I think honestly they could appoint Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and I think those guys would struggle, considering the way that Chelsea is set up and the flux that they have. I think it goes beyond a manager at Chelsea. I think it's very strange to me that you had this winning culture that was instilled by Roman Abramovich and Bruce Buck, Marina Granovskaya, which it seemed at times seemed kind of chaotic in terms of they would be brutally competitive in like, oh, Carlo Ancelotti, you didn't retain a title, sorry, you're out. But it worked. And the new owners have just basically said, oh, all of that Champions League winning team that we inherited, gone. Champions League winning coach, gone. To the point that they play in blue, they call themselves Chelsea, but they're unrecognisable from what they were before. And I think within that environment, you could look at it as a new coach and thinking, oh, great, I can actually walk into this and build a club around myself. But it hasn't happened. And I think it will take 3 or 4 coaches all experiencing the same problems, all making the same complaints, for the owners to actually sit up and take notice and think, actually, maybe we need to change the way we do things or to change the way we operate. And so, I don't think it mattered who they appointed, whether it be Maresca.
Right.
It's
already
also
their 4th or 5th manager.
But I honestly, the thing about Maresca is like, he makes this big thing about, what you can learn from chess when it comes to coaching. And sort of being able to read situations and be 2 or 3 moves ahead and all this sort of thing. It's like, well, if you're preparing yourself for Chelsea, then surely you're like, actually, the better thing for my career is not to take this job. The better thing for my career is to actually stay at Leicester or find that middle stage before going to a Chelsea. In the way that Xabi Alonso has quite humbly said, you know what, I've done Real Sociedad B, I'm at Bayer Leverkusen. I could go to Liverpool, could go to Bayern Munich, could go to Real Madrid. But no, the better thing for my development as a coach right now is to stay and have a second full season at Bayer Leverkusen. And so, I think whatever Maresca's chess teacher has taught him, has led him into what feels like a checkmateable position by just accepting this job.
Crikey, James.
I suppose the theory might be that the old thing about, if you fail at Chelsea, then no one's really going to care. Like, it's not going to, it won't affect your prospects of getting another job because, everyone knows that it's a complete madhouse. And
I mean, you can get relegated with Burnley and still get
exactly. There you go.
As long as you've
got a whiff of pep about you.
As long as you've got a Man City or City Group flavour.
4 of the top big 6 are now managed by ex-City Football Group. Well, people involved in City Football Group. The most tenuous being Postecoglou, who was at Yokohama Mariners.
Right.
But
I kind of agree with you to an extent, Nick, particularly when it comes to players, in that if you fail at Chelsea, it's not the end of your career. How many times we've seen De Bruyne go on somewhere else, become the best player in the league. Mo Salah do the same. But for managers, like AVB, at least in this country, is still defined by that experience he had at Chelsea. Big Phil Scolari, sort of wins World Cup with Brazil, takes Portugal to a European Championship final. Still, in this country at least, is Big Phil Scolari. Do you remember he was at Chelsea for however long? Avram. Okay.
Roberto Di Matteo.
Yeah, Di Matteo, and like even like Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
Like
Twice.
So I don't think it is a free hit where your reputation is intact when you come out of the Chelsea job. So, I'm curious to see how it works out.
All right. That's almost the end of this Totally Football show, listener. But there's one more matter to be addressed. I know, crikey. It's the second semi-final in the Inter-Totally Cup. Who is going to be facing Tom Williams in the final? Let's find out. Well, congratulations there to Michael Cox. Commiserations to Jules. Very sporting, I thought. Yeah.
I'm sure there's another podcast with another quiz,
Another
that he
quiz.
can try and win. So
Yeah, possibly so. But, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the final now. Michael Cox against Tom Williams. I mean, it's, for some people, perhaps, Borussia against Real-esque in its mismatch. Michael Cox, who's won half of all the Inter-Totally Cups so far. Tom, who's won none of them.
also there's an Opta quiz, isn't there, tonight, I think?
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Which, Cox, I wonder if they're on the same team or if they're on opposing teams.
Imagine the mind games.
Yeah,
They're on the
exactly.
same team.
Yeah.
And you've got to wonder on how that's going to impact Tom arriving, if he's not involved, fresh from a week of just preparation. Michael quizzed out.
Or maybe sort of
Quizzed in his
quiz
pants.
fit.
Yeah, quiz fit. Perhaps. I don't know. But on Sunday, in our special post-Champions League final show, we will be hosting, incorporating live the final of the Inter-Totally.
What do you think will be a bigger event?
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's the Inter-Totally final show incorporating
Yeah.
Champions League final reaction.
I've enjoyed the quiz this year. I've been a step removed from it. I usually write the questions, but I haven't really.
You've written some of the questions.
I've written some of the questions,
Yeah.
but Duncan's taken over that mantle.
Does that mean
so-
like you're UEFA in this usually? You set the rules, you set the questions.
I am Seferin.
I think
You're a Seferin or Giorgio
shadowy
Marchetti.
producer Charlie is very much the Seferin, or more of a the other-
Galliani type.
Yeah. Well, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But yes. Anyway,
I'm that
that's
guy-
enough idle chit chat.
I'm that guy who looks like Ranieri who does the draws. Is that?
That's Giorgio Marchetti. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you, Nick, for all your contributions to the quiz in this and the other editions, and in today's Totally Football show. Many thanks to you, Alvaro, as well.
Thank you.
And James Horncastle. We'll hope to be speaking with you guys ahead of the Euros when we do our Euro preview shows. And many thanks as well to Rob and Seb for stopping by, and Rachel and producer Charlie in the booth. And you, listener, do join us Sunday for all those excitements. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.